Armed Services Committee, and it's great to have you here tonight. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jackie.
So much happening at NATO today. President Trump hitting on so many different topics in his remarks. The 5% of GDP spending, top of mind because of, being at NATO, but also talking about Iran and Israel, talking about Operation Midnight Hammer, talking about Russia, Ukraine. With respect to the Operation Midnight Hammer, he is still defending the work of the U.S. Armed Services in this country. You've got liberal media outlets that are trying to tear down what has occurred. You've got the potential for a leaker, that report that came out, the DIA report, saying that the operation was not as successful as the administration is saying it is. They are investigating all of these things. But at the end of the day, Senator, shouldn't we just all be coming together after a successful mission that took out Iran's nuclear capability? Isn't that the bottom line here?
Jackie, you're absolutely correct. Unfortunately, what's happened here is the left media, like CNN, I mentioned this yesterday on CNN, they can't take the win. Every president since Bill Clinton has been very outspoken, making sure that Iran should never be able to get a nuclear weapon. The problem is none of them actually had the backbone like our commander-in-chief and our president, President Trump, did. And he was able to deliver on something that other presidents has only been able to talk about. Now, once we did this, because I don't care who you are, I don't care what side of the spectrum of politics you're on, we can all say the idea of Iran having a nuclear weapon is a bad idea. My goodness, they're a world sponsor of terror. They sponsor more terror groups and responsible for killing over 1,000 Americans just over the last 40 years. So the idea of them having a nuclear weapon is ridiculous. And then you have a successful mission where we had 30 Tomahawk missiles delivered. We had 16 30,000-pound bunker buster bombs delivered. We had a zero casualties, and we destroyed their nuclear weapons and their facilities. Now, that should be celebrated, but they can't. And the reason why is because President Trump is the one that did it. If this was any other president, they would be celebrating and saying what a great victory it is. But, hey, that's the left media you have today in today's world.
Yeah, so, Senator, you have the leak that was big news yesterday, and then the pushback. We even mentioned some of it on this show last evening. You have the IAEA chief saying that he imagined the damage was very significant based on all of his information. You had General Petraeus tell our colleague Will Kane that he thinks it set back Iran's program by years. You actually have the regime itself admitting today that the damage was immense. They lie all the time, but when they're in alignment with the Israelis coming out and saying, yes, this is years of setback based on these attacks, you have all of that body of evidence against one leaked document. I think that's interesting.
Yeah, and I want people to understand, because they'll say, well, I thought you destroyed it, so why is it set back? What we're talking about by setback is we destroyed the facilities, but we can't destroy the knowledge. The knowledge that was shared with Iran from China and Russia, they have that knowledge now. So they have the ability to rebuild, but they're not going to use the facilities. And I think, Guy, one thing that we need to point out, too, because I think there's a little confusion between what Tulsi Gabbard is DNI, the Director of National Intelligence. What DIA is Defense Intelligence Agency. The DIA that had this low confidence report that was leaked out, they don't even have eyes in the country, but yet the left media like CNN runs with the story to try to discredit the success of this mission. And it's actually hurtful, but thank God we have a president and we have his cabinet that is pushing back on that narrative, saying, no, this was a complete success. And then we get a gift from Iran themselves going, yeah, this was bad. This was really bad. This hurt us.
Yeah, and by the way, you were talking about the knowledge that the regime now has on nukes. A lot of that knowledge was in the brains of people who are no longer alive, because the Israelis took a bunch of them off. So that's another element of this, Jackie.
I need to switch gears here for a moment while we have you, Senator, because we want to ask you about the big, beautiful bill. There is a lot of pressure for the Senate to be able to pass it. President Trump is urging Congress and telling you all, basically, nobody's going on vacation until something happens here, but the Senate version is still very different from the House version. What is it going to take to pass a bill where there is some consensus?
Yeah, so I think we're really close. I feel like we'll be voting on a bill this weekend, maybe as soon as Friday night. We're still going through the bird bath, but the bill isn't actually as drastically different as most will think. In fact, 85% of the bill is what the House sent over. Now, the House and the White House and the Senate, we have been working very closely together to deliver a good bill. Even when the House was in the process of drawing theirs up, they were working with the Senate. So about 15% of it is changed, but that 15%, a lot of it was taken out through the bird bath. So some of the sticking points is salt, obviously, that we're still working through. What that is, state and local taxes. If you're not in a blue state, it's really not a big issue to you. And then some of the Medicaid and Medicare provisions where we're trying to cut the waste and fraud. Those are some sticking points that we're slowly working through the process to make sure we can deliver the votes in the House and in the Senate and put it on the president's desk. And I think the July 4th deadline that we have set for ourselves, I believe it's doable. And I think we'll be able to deliver this promise for the American people, get rid of the Biden administration policies and move towards a new era of Trump policies.
Okay, they are big sticking points. We will circle back and see where we stand. Senator Mark Wayne Mullin, thank you so much. Good to see you.
Thanks for having me on.